Hello, everyone. Hello, and welcome to KAMDI Conversations. I am your host, Tanya Hawley, and this is where the stars tell their stories. And once again, I'm so excited to be here because I've got a real special guest, but they're all special to me, but he's real special because this is my buddy I have here this evening. So I got to tell you, he's a rapper, he's a record executive. He's a producer of film and television. He's a screenwriter. He's an author. He's my friend. Please join me and welcome me, the Emmy Award winner, Mr. Alonzo Brown. Hey,
Hey, Tanya, how you doing? How are you, darling?
wonderful. How are you, Alonzo?
Fantastic. I'm doing fantastic.
Thank you so much for joining me today and chatting with me for a little bit so everybody can hear about you. I appreciate you and you spending the time.
Well, thank you for having me. I mean, you and I, we're so close. You know what I mean? And we've gotten even closer.
Yes, I've had the pleasure of knowing you for a little while because of our mutual friend, who I affectionately call Uncle Greg. And
Yep.
that is, of course, Gregory Williams from Switch, for the
Yep.
few of you who may not know.
And anytime you call, of course, we got to answer. So here I am.
Thank you. Oh, that makes me feel good. Thank you, Alonzo.
Well,
I want everybody to hear that so those who don't answer me know they can stay. So, Alonzo, I think you're like the best kept secret. People just don't know because there's so much that goes on behind scenes for a lot of things that people don't know about. And you're one of those people that make things happen. So today they're gonna find out about you.
okay.
So I want to start at the beginning. In the beginning, let's go way back a few
Okay.
years,
Okay.
back to Harlem.
We
I
can
know
go
you're in
back to
Atlanta.
Uh-huh.
You're in Atlanta now, right?
Yes, I am. That's
But
right.
you're from Harlem,
From
correct?
Harlem, the great state of Harlem, by the way.
The great state of Harlem. Okay. Very good. So
Yeah.
let's go back because people don't know your connection, or they may not know your connection with Andre Harrell. But let's go back to the beginning days of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, that infamous rap group. But before even you got there, Alonzo, tell me where this all started. The interest started in music and entertainment.
Well, my mother and father, they're from South Carolina, and they came up during the Great Migration. And
Mm.
even though mother was a maid and my dad was a chauffeur,
Hmm.
and for a family out on Long Island, and eventually they moved into Harlem. And even though they had what you might want to call um, uh, simple occupations,
Hmm.
at night they would go out and he would have tuxes on and tails, and my mom would get dressed up, and they would enjoy the nightlife of Harlem and some of the great places like the Savoy and the Renaissance and all of that. And so they always had a sense of nightlife, a sense of entertainment, and it transferred into the music.
Okay.
And we had a little record player, like suitcase joints,
Yes.
And what I used to do is take like I used to buy these Barry White records because Barry White had the long intros, and I have a piece
Yes.
of paper, and I would sit there and I would write write songs to it or poems at first because I was in love with Candy Johnson. She lived on the seventh floor, and I lived on the. She lived on the 10th. I lived on the seventh. So I used to write these poems for Candy, and so that kind of got me started in writing. Uh, in writing at all.
Okay.
I always loved music. Yeah,
Okay. So Alonzo, you were writing words to the intro of Barry's songs.
yeah.
So what about Love's Theme? Did you just write a whole thing on Love's Theme?
No. After when the vocals came in, I started over again. So I would
That's
just write
funny.
the
But
intros.
Love's Theme, there were no words. Remember Love's Theme?
Oh, right. Yeah, that's true. No, that wasn't it. I just
Okay.
but,
Well, let me ask you this: Did it work for
yeah,
Candy
yeah.
Johnson?
I finally got to kiss Candy.
Oh,
And when I did, I kissed her and I ran, and she never let me forget that. But
I
there
love it.
was also a right outside my window. We could see out the front in the projects. It was Manny's record shop, right?
Mm.
And so Manny had the speakers on the outside, and we would go in there, and he would play whatever we wanted, whatever the new thing was. And it was Parliament Funkadelic, and Bootsy and Earth, Wind and Fire, of course the Jacksons, or whatever. So, we couldn't, I couldn't afford an album. I could afford a 45,
There you go. Okay.
So it was cool, but it was a very diverse place because it was on the border of Harlem and Spanish Harlem. So during that time, you'd have in the back, you'd have people that would come out and play congas and play. You had the time of the band, so you had the Barclays and all these other groups. So people would always try to emulate these bands along with the influence of salsa, along with this was the time of singing groups too. So everybody wanted to be in a singing group. So you had Magic, you had The Moment, you had Tito Puente. It was just a what they call salsa means a soup.
Yeah. Oh wow! Just a potpourri of everything right outside your door.
Yes. It was amazing.
And so how did you meet Andre? How did Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde come about?
Well, the funny thing is, my brother went to Charles Evans Hughes High School, which was way down. I lived on 110th. We did. So on 18th Street. And it was a pretty good school, but I got good grades. So I went to Norman Thomas. So I got picked for Norman Thomas.
Okay.
So, of course, I didn't want to be without my brother. So I went to Charles Evans Hughes. And Andre was in his class, in one of his classes. It's a class called Technical Electricity. Don't ask me what that means. I have no idea.
Okay. Okay.
But then Andre and I got to know each other. And at the time, hip hop was like really first starting out in the streets from the Bronx. He's from the Bronx, from Harlem, in the parks and stuff like that. And so we started comparing rhymes. And then we would meet in the stairways in the high school.
In high school. Mm-hmm.
We started rapping, and then we decided we were going to form a group. And that we started with a bunch of different names too. Like we were trying to pick out the names. It was like Lone Ranger and Tonto, nah. Andre D and Lonnie B, nah. And then we settled on Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. And he went Dr. Jekyll. I was like, fantastic. I'll be Mr. Hyde. And the only reason why I wanted to be Mr. Hyde really is because everything rhymes with Hyde. Hyde, tide, side, by, nothing rhymes with Jekyll.
No, that's true. That's a hard one to rhyme with.
Yeah.
So you all were in high school when you started.
Yeah.
You met and you started. So how did the big break come for Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde? And by the way, were you wearing suits in high school? Because Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde are known for always being clean with dressed up.
Well, what happened with the suit thing was, it's funny because we always aspired. Andre did and I did through our parents of having a better life. Mm-hmm. Andre worked at Wynn's 1010 radio station in New York. He used to sell advertising time.
Okay.
After college. And then during college, I took an internship at the American Stock Exchange. So I was down there on the trading floor, running back and forth as a runner. So I had to wear a suit and everything. So we always wanted to aspire to be bigger and do more with our lives, outside of the environment that we were in. So it was a natural thing for us to progress from the workspace to the rap space. Yeah.
In your suits.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And it gave us an identity that at first I really didn't appreciate. But then other rappers were like, yo, that's kind of fly. Like there was never any, issue or anything. Like it was just like, yo, that's y'all. That's who we are. Right. We had glasses, you know what I'm saying? We were Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
It was a very nice look. Yes. It stood out. It was unique.
Yeah. And now when you see like over the years where they had the dress code, with the NBA.
Right.
Now, at first you were like, now everybody's got a fashion line and all this kind of stuff or whatever. But then when you look at like artists like Jay-Z and Puff and all of them, you see the tuxedos and the suits and the this. Even stand-up comedians like Chris Rock. See a level of sophistication about it and fashion. And, we might have been the first to bring that to the entertainment business. In terms of without being a singing group, as a rapper for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. I don't recall Anyone else doing that, especially rappers?
Yeah.
And what year was that, or what years was that you all were
I,
Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde?
I have no idea. Let me think.
Okay.
I think last week, but I would say 80s,
Well,
like
yeah, it definitely was the 80s.
early 80s,
Okay.
early 80s. Yeah.
Very good. All right. I just took you back down memory lane.
There you go. There you go.
You also weren't you one of the first groups to sample Genius of Love? Because that was one of my
Yeah,
favorites.
we did. We were the first to sample.
Yes. The first, yes.
Yeah.
And so many people have sampled that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Since.
It was really funny because we went to this guy's name, Eric. What's his name? Not Eric Nuri. Eric Nuri is a record executive. I forgot his name. Eric, whatever, out in Queens, and he had the track. He put it on, and Andre and I, like in 2 takes, we was like, "All right, we leave you alone." And they, it was on. We got signed by Profile through some friends of ours, the Aleens, the fantastic Aleens. They had the record "Release Yourself" and whatever. And Profile was really doing disco records at the time, and they were actually on their way out. And
Okay.
Rap saved their label.
Okay.
After that, this time Run DMC and what's his name? The kid that made I Got It Made.
Help us out, audience.
So yeah, that's kind of how it began.
Very good. And so we got a couple comments. Hi, John. Good evening to you. Hi, Sharon Tolliver. She's saying amazing how many directions he has gone in as an artist. Tell us about his transition from music to writing, especially kids TV. And we're going to get all into that, Sharon. So thank you for that question. And we will get into all of that. John said a special ed you're trying to think of.
Right. There you go.
Thank you, John.
Old school.
John, that's my buddy. He knows. Okay, so tell us what happened. Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde apparently came to an end, and then when you started your career as a music executive at different labels, that's what came next. So you were general manager at, was it Cold Chillin'?
Cold Chillin' Records. Yeah, at the time it was like the beginning of the independent black hip hop labels: Def Jam, Uptown, Cold Chillin'. Those kind of labels. Tommy Moore. Where they were being distributed by the big guys, Warner Brothers, Columbia, Sony, that kind of stuff.
And who was on Cold Chillin'? What artists?
Big Daddy Kane, Roxanne Shante, Marley Marl, Biz Markie. Yeah, we had some big ones.
Some heavy hitters there. So what was it like working with all of those names you just said?
Crazy. Because nobody knew what they were doing, including me. This is like the beginning, like nobody, hip hop was starting to come, but it didn't break out. Like you had the Sugar Hill Gang, but that was really it. It didn't become a business yet. When the big labels started signing and Run DMC hit, they was like, okay. But there were no real executives to fill that.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny because you had the major labels who had their executives, their black executives, but they weren't coming back down, so to speak.
Right.
And a lot of the records weren't getting played on radio, but they were still selling. So you kind of had to pick and choose the people who were like smart in the world of hip hop that you think could make it as an executive, And Tyrone Williams, God bless him. Tyrone Williams was like, he called me up. He was like, and maybe it was the suit and ties too,
Maybe, yeah.
He called me up and I came into his office. He said, okay, I got good news and bad news. No, he said, okay, here's how it's going to work. You're going to be the head of promotion out the box. I'm like vice president of promotion, He says, you do a good job, I'll give you a raise. If you don't, I'm going to fire you. So my job was to go out and try to get the Vapors played on radio back then when, it wasn't nobody hip hop. So I remember about a month later, Tyrone called me and he was like, I was at WBLS radio station. He was like, come on back. I got to talk to you. I was like, oh, shit. Oh, excuse my French. But
G.
Yeah.
It's a G show. Okay. Rated G.
He's going to take a cab back. I walk back, He was like, I got good news and bad news. He says, the bad news is you're fired. The good news is Big Daddy Kane missed an interview with Cynthia Horner. So now you're the publicist. So he switched to publicity. And there I flourished, and it was great because I loved the word. I love dealing with the writers, the beat writers from
Mhm.
Stone and
And what label was that, Alonzo?
hmm?
Was that still at Cold Chillin' or somewhere?
Coachella.
Okay.
Briefly, because we were distributed through Warner Brothers, and after like
Okay.
3 months, Warner Brothers, because I had to talk to them and coordinate with Warner Brothers.
Right.
A man named Gene Shelton, who was over there, he took me to dinner one night. He was like, "Look, I want you to come work at Warner Brothers. You can keep the Coachella stuff because we have to do that, but we have other artists, and I think you'd be great. Your energy is fantastic." So I didn't know this, but you already had that conversation with Tyrone Williams, and I didn't even know it. And
Okay.
Tyrone was more than happy to get me off his payroll and put him on one thing, and plus I could still handle this artist. So I went from like, I don't know, what street was that? 72nd Street, with an office in front of an air conditioner and a box joint, to 75 Rockefeller on the 23rd floor with a
Wow.
park. Yeah, yeah, and it was big time. Everything about it was big time, and the artists were big time. I worked with Rick James, Apollonia, Patty Austin. I worked with a lot of different various groups inside. But I started to understand the corporate side of the whole business.
Mm-hmm.
Big deal for me. Yeah.
Wonderful. Now, so let's just pick one and just give us a story or tell us something about what it was like working. Let's just say Rick James. What was it like working with Rick James?
So the best story of all is this was the second day on the job.
Mm-hmm.
And my boss tells me, okay, you're going to take Cynthia Horner up to Buffalo to do an interview with Rick. He had just signed the Warner Brothers. No problem. Got it. Go pick up Cynthia in Jersey, go to Newark Airport, fly to Buffalo. No problem. Why did I stay out all night partying? I went to Cynthia's, we got to the airport and missed the plane.
Oh.
And I was like, my first job, my first assignment. And I was looking at Cynthia like, and Cynthia was really helpful in getting me the job. And she was like, don't worry, let's just go eat. So we, I talk. And I love her to death. And so Cynthia was like, don't worry about it. So we caught another plane, got there, door opens up, it's Rick James. He's hugging Cynthia. Then he looks over like, who the hell is that? Like that. Oh God, it's all true. So anyway, they do the interview, and Rick started playing music, and then I started talking to him about his music in terms of chord changes, melodies.
Mm-hmm.
So why did you do this? Why did you do that? And so he realized I wasn't just an executive or a fan, that I understood music and I understood the structure of music. And then it started snowing. And we stayed there for 2 days.
Oh yeah, Buffalo. Yes, I've been there. That has happened to me in Buffalo.
Yeah. So after that, Rick James and I became like this.
You got snowed in. I mean, you didn't stay at Rick James's house, did you?
Yeah.
Oh, so you were at Rick James's house for 2 days because you got snowed in Buffalo.
Yeah, exactly. Thank God he had a big house, but he had this recording studio that was fabulous in his house. And Rick has a heart of gold, man. He really did. He had a heart of gold.
Mm.
If he was down with you, he was down with you. He had your back,
Yes.
And he was just funny, and he was just so real, He was just so real.
Well, thank you for sharing that story. I actually had watched the documentary on him that was out not too long ago.
Okay.
Yeah, it was really interesting. Yeah. It was a great documentary. If those of you who haven't seen it, it's really good. If you get an opportunity, make sure you watch it. So thank you for sharing that, Alonzo. That's a great story. I love to hear the stories.
Yeah.
Laura is sending us a hug. Hey, Laura Lipford. And
hey, Laura.
Sean Hawley says, in this new age of the music industry, how would you approach the rap game if you were a young'un now, and you believe you got the goods to be on top? Good question.
That is a good question. Um, you know, there's always challenges to everything. Like people come to me and they go, "Oh, it's so hard." And I'm like, it's always been hard. Everything's hard. You're a stockbroker, whatever. It's all hard. This is what I would do. I mean, I think that right now is a very fortunate time for artists in terms of technology. Like
Mm-hmm.
back then, if we wanted to shoot a video, my God, you had to rent a camera that cost,
Right.
$1,000 a day or whatever. You know what I mean? Now you can do it on your phone. What I would say is, don't worry about what it's going to be. Deal with what is. What can you
Mm-hmm.
do besides your music to get it going? I would shoot a video. I I, I would I would shoot a video. Obviously, you got to have a social media platform and everything like that. But I would shoot a short movie with my music in it. I would do whatever it takes, like whatever medium that people could see or hear my music, it would be in it. I would take people's commercials, blow out the sound, and put my shit in, or put my stuff in it. I'm sorry, and see how passionate I am about this, and put my stuff in it. Put my song in their commercial, whether
Mm-hmm.
it's Ford trucks or cream of wheat.
Mm-hmm.
Put it online. You know, um, I
That's good.
don't know what the purpose is of major labels anymore. I just don't know. I,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not in that business anymore. I can't say there isn't a business, there is
Mm-hmm.
a purpose. I just don't know what that is. But
Mm-hmm.
this cream rises to the top every time. There's no way you could have stopped Jay-Z or Biggie or the Migos or any of them. There's no way you could have stopped them. There's
Mm-hmm.
no magic potion to what they did. They just had hit records,
That's
so you'll find it.
that's good. You gave some great input, and what you just said and showed, in my opinion, is your creativity, how creative you are. What you just said, I would take commercials and do this, and that just came from the question, and it shows how creative you are.
Yeah.
And I see why you have done all of these things. Your creativity just blooms, just blows up when you start thinking about things. I see that just
When
in your.
you look at YouTube, you see people taking their songs and putting it on other people's videos or whatever they do.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you do that for commercials? Why don't you do that for whatever? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like expand your mind. Don't look at what you're looking at. Look at what everybody's looking at.
Okay.
It's not about what you're looking at. It's about what everybody's looking at. And I hope, Sean, I hope that helped answer your question.
Mm-hmm. I think you absolutely did. That was a great answer. Thank you for that. It kind of answered one of my questions, and if you want to add to it later, you can. And that was, I usually ask my guests if you could give a piece of advice to those that are aspiring to be artists, and that kind of fit right into that question.
Yeah.
So if there's anything else you want to add to that later, because you never know who watches. I know there's people that watch that are aspiring to be an artist, and want advice from those that have been there, done that. And I like to share nuggets. But let's keep moving. You gave us our Rick James story, and you have been. So now we've got Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. We got music executive down, vice president of A&R. We didn't talk about that. And at A&M Records. So you were at Warner Brothers, A&M, Cold Chillin'.
Yeah.
A lot. And
I've done a lot. I think that with A&R was kind of, it was not easy, but I just see it as the transition into film and television, actually.
Right, which is what's next up. Yes.
Yeah, that's the funny thing about it, because when I got the job at A&M, A&M was such a beautiful boutique record label. At the time, they had Janet Jackson, they had Barry White, and my focus was on Barry,
Okay.
which was, oh my God, one of the best experiences of my life, man. Barry White.
Wow.
He's so cool, man. He's so cool. And I told the story about how I used to write,
Yeah, I was just gonna say it came full circle for you.
Yeah, it did. It really did. And he used to call me Money. He go, "Hey, Money, Money." you know. And used to go to his house, and we used to sit there, and of course, everybody's cooking, you know, and what a gentle man, he really was. But the turning point of all of that was A&M had a film company called A&M Films. And they had done The Mighty Quinn. So it was an independent film company, and it was headed by this guy named Dale Pollock. And so Dale and I got to know each other really well. Just hang out, right there, because A&M lot is like a campus,
Mm-hmm.
And so my friend Barry Michael Cooper, who wrote New Jack City, he knew that I was at A&M, and he knew that I was hanging out with Dale because Barry and I would talk. So he had just come up from New Jack City,
Okay.
What do you think about giving my next script to Dale? And I was like, yeah, why not? Okay, cool. So he sends me the script. And I called Dale up and I'm like, look, I got Barry Michael Cooper's next script. He's like, really? So we fly Barry out and we have dinner.
Mm-hmm.
And they optioned the script. And I just never forget, I was in LA and I was on Sunset Boulevard, and Dale had that green, old school, hot green Jaguar with spokes and everything. We just ride down Sunset Strip and everything, and it was a turning point because I realized then, relationships are everything.
Yes.
Talent gets you so far. A lot of talented people out here, but relationships get you everywhere, and you really can't be. As an artist, I've always thought of myself as an artist, not a music artist, not a director, not a film writer, not a screenwriter, not a painter, an artist.
Mm-hmm.
An artist, you're going to experiment with everything.
Okay.
What I try to do. And so there I was finding myself, in the movie business, and it seems simple in its conversation.
Mm-hmm.
It really isn't. It takes months to hone that. But again, going back to relationships, a lot of us, what we do is, if it doesn't work for us, if it doesn't suit our needs at the time, at the moment, we just
Mm-hmm.
call it. We don't look at things as seeds. We don't look at things as small things that we put away, like pennies, like dollars in a piggy bank, because you
Mm-hmm.
never know when you're going to need it. And
Okay.
I have friends that I've known for 10 years. Just meeting them and we talk and we're in the business together. And then all of a sudden they'll call me or I'll call them and we're doing business. We've never done business before.
Mm-hmm.
But the circumstances make it right to do business.
Right.
So a lot of times people go, well, can't do nothing for me, so, whatever. And you throw it away. And you're going to need it again.
Right.
So,
I love that. So, but how did it come about that you actually started? You had the script, you had the dinner. How did you actually make this transition? Because was your next step, well, wait a minute. We didn't talk about Uptown at all.
you're right. That is the next step. Yeah.
Okay. So, so Uptown, but as far as Uptown Records.
Right.
So,
What happened was, I was working back and forth with Andre, but I was living in LA and New York with A&M at the same time, but I was helping Andre out.
okay.
So Andre knew that I had sold that movie to Barry's movie, and he had just finished doing Strictly Business with Halle Berry. It was her first movie.
Okay.
At the time, Uptown was really starting to gear up, boy. It was Mary J. Blige, Heavy D, Jodeci, Albie Shore, Christopher Williams. I mean, fire at the time. So Andre calls me up and he's like, yo. I said, what? He says, guess what? I said, what? He says, I just closed a deal with Universal Films and Television for $50 million. You're going to be the president of it. Call this lady here, Human Resources. Boom, and hung up on me.
Okay.
He said to the Hamptons or something, And so I called the lady up. I think BS, I called the lady up. She's like, oh, Alonzo Brown, we were expecting you. And so 2 days later, I found myself on the Universal lot because Uptown was distributed through MCA, and MCA was owned by Universal.
Okay.
Unbeknownst to me, Andre was making a film and television deal because you had New Jack City, you had the Fresh Prince that just came, you had Minister Society that was right around the block. So hip hop was coming to Hollywood.
Okay.
Looking at strategically the big studios, like, how can we get in this game? It's obviously making money and it doesn't cost a lot. So, so,
So
so,
you didn't know it was coming, is what you did. You had no
no,
idea.
no
He
idea,
never mentioned to you.
no
Andre never
idea,
told you.
no idea. And then I was like, what the heck am I going to do now?
Thank you for keeping that G rated, what you just said.
Especially that word.
Yeah.
But it's funny because, and I think some of your viewers would like this part. When I first got there, the mandate was to take some of our artists or whatever, figure it out, you
Mhm.
know. But where I come from, it's not good enough to just sit around and have dinners. And I didn't know the town at all. I didn't know the managers. I didn't know the agents. I didn't even know the studio executives at Universal yet. And so Andre comes and has dinner with the lawyer that everybody recommended. He's having lunch with the lawyer. I'm back at the office in LA.
Okay.
He's in LA too. And so he comes back, he starts laughing. And I'm like, what are you laughing at? He said, well, she asked me, who do you got that's going to run? She came with a whole list of executives for me to hire, black executives from Fox, Universal, whatever. He said, no, I already took care of that. I got Alonzo Brown. She was like, who's that? Fire him now, but they're not going to take you seriously.
Wow.
And he was just bust out laughing, right? And I was like, yo, this ain't funny. He says, but then after he calmed down, he said, I told her, I said, listen, he's going to get the town. He's going to get the movements of it. What he has that they don't have is my instincts. We're in sync with each other. And he'll get it, trust me. And in 2 years, we had New York Undercover on the air.
Okay. I love it. So
Yeah.
let's talk about New York Undercover, and I'm going to get to talking about Andre a little bit more. But since you mentioned New York Undercover, let's talk about that. One of my favorite shows of all time. I have to tell you that I love that show. I hate it when it ended.
Yeah, me too.
I'm sure you did.
Me too.
But so, tell us your involvement with that, how that came about, and just loved
Yeah.
it.
Well, as an executive, what you have to do is act sort of as a producer, Because at the time it was like, okay, how do we create something that's organic to who we are?
Mm-hmm.
You can't just go make Amistad. It's like it doesn't reflect who Uptown is, what we're about. We're about the music, we're about we're about hip hop, we're about the culture, we're about Harlem, we're about all these things. What do? We sitting there and we're like, okay, got it. One of the television shows we always loved, Audrey and I, we sit there and watch it all the time. Miami Vice.
I was going to say Miami Vice. Yeah.
You had the music, you had the fashion, you had the cars, you had everything. You had the white, linen joints, everything. So we was like, okay, well, if Miami Vice is MTV Cops, then New York Undercover is hip hop cops.
Oh, okay.
Frame it in that regard. Let's look at it as the urban version of Miami Vice with two good-looking detectives who run the streets, who know the game. And at first, then we went to Universal and we said, okay, we got this pitch. Who do we need to talk to? He said, well, you're going to need a showrunner. And we were like, well, who's the biggest showrunner you have? The showrunner, for the people that don't know, is the head writer. He's the guy that's in charge of making sure that show is on.
Okay.
Most showrunners are writers, but some showrunners are not. Like with NCIS, it's Jerry Bruckheimer. He's not a writer, but he's a showrunner. He's the guy that's in charge.
Okay.
So we said, who you got? Universal. They said, well, we got Dick Wolf. We said, all right, we want to meet him. So a day later, we go to Dick Wolf's office. And see, this is one of the things I want to expound on with your audience.
Okay.
There should never be fear in terms of going at somebody or going to get what you want. But when you get there, you better have something to say. You better have something to give them. There needs to be value in what you're talking about, not just how hot you are and you got 100,000 views or whatever. That doesn't serve that person. How are they going to make money? How are they going to be more creative? How are they going to expand their business? That's what makes sense. Dick had, obviously he had Law and Order, SVU, and all that, but it was something different. It was something special. It was something that actually fit into his production, because remember, they shoot in New York.
Right.
So it wouldn't cost them more money to shoot it. A little more, but they could kind of use the same crew. They could rotate out, blah, 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 blah.
Okay.
So we go and we meet with Fox. And by the end of the conversation, Andre talked about the culture and the structure of it and what it would mean. We talked about producing the show, and I talked about some of the stories that we would get. And by the end of the day, we shook hands and everything. And like 3 days later, they were like, "Yeah, okay, we want to author up the pilot for the show." So we got Kevin Arkadie, who went on to write for Ray Donovan and Shield and all of that kind of stuff. He wrote the pilot, and then we got Bill Duke to produce the. He directed the thing, and then we got him too made to do the music. So we surrounded him with older, professional, grown men.
Yes, him too, man.
They understood what the structure of the business was.
Well, thank you for that. I love it. I loved it. As Hawley, Sean is saying, who screwed up New York Undercover? I think you meant why did it end?
Some things end,
Yeah, right. I guess that season ended. Okay, someone is saying hello and saying hey, but your name is not showing on here, so I don't know who it is. So you got to put your name in there, but we're saying hello back to you. So we've got New York Undercover under wraps. So tell us about you started Brown Communications after that. Was that after New York Undercover? Because I know you also did Motown Live, but we only got an hour show, so I want to make sure I get some of this other stuff in.
Yeah, we did Motown Live and all of that.
Tell us about Nickelodeon, though, because So how did that come about? So you also had a show you did on Nickelodeon.
Yeah, well, at the time, my daughter was about 9 years old, and we used to always go to movies and all this kind of stuff or whatever, and watch TV. And, just looking at television, and I was just like, it really wasn't anything that represented who she was. And also, there was a commercial it's a Nike commercial called Little Penny. And he was this little doll, Penny Hardaway, And so it was a big commercial. Chris Rock did the voice and everything. I'm sure some of your viewers would know about that. And so I thought it would be a cool idea to have this doll who's a cousin of a basketball player. Basketball player goes on the road, and so the doll throws a party because people ain't looking at him like a doll. They look at him like, yo, it's Little Penny. And so I called up Chris Rock, and I said, well, what about doing a television show for it? And they were like, it ain't gonna work because I own the license, voice, Nike. I said, all right, well, I'm gonna create my own. And I went out and thought it through and was thinking about, suppose a cousin comes to the house, to these kids' house, and people act like he's just a normal person, but he's really a puppet. But they treat him like a regular human being. But again, the culture is there. The music is there. It's a hip hop Alf that comes to live with the Cosby family.
Okay.
Basically.
And they're saying they remember. Roni says, "I remember Little Penny."
There you go. Yeah.
Sean is saying Spike directed those commercials, if memory serves him right.
That's right. Sure
Your
did.
memory serves you right, sir.
Sure
Very
did.
good. So and you had Megan Good on My Cousin Skeeter too. I said
that was her first job.
Wow.
Came in like a bolt of lightning in the casting, and I was just like, "That's her. That's the one right there."
Oh, wow. Look at her now. You knew her when.
Yeah, yeah. Because one thing about Megan is that when she came in as a little girl, high on energy with optimism and enthusiasm. And, it wasn't a black girl, it wasn't a white girl, but she was black. And we've certainly put that together and made sure that people understood that this is a black family.
Mm-hmm.
But her energy was so high, it was perfect against Robert Richard, who was like, "Oh no, let's not jump over that cliff." But her and Skeeter would go anyway, you
Oh,
know. So I thought it was great.
just we have covered so many artists' name. We have talked about so many people. You have worked with so many people. It's amazing how many you just casually have mentioned the number of people through this interview so far. So, which says a lot about you. So now, we got to talk about Honey just briefly because I love that movie too.
Yeah.
For those of you that haven't seen Honey, go watch it. So I loved Honey, and I love what's her name, Alba,
Jessica Alba.
Jessica Alba. I've always loved her. I've,
Mhm.
I've always liked. She always has stood out to me.
Yep. And one thing I want to say, I want to go back to New York Undercover real quick. What
Okay.
was important to us is that they just weren't black cops and black robbers. What's important to us is that, especially with Malik Yoba, he had a son. And every episode with his son, he would tell his son, "I love you." And it was important for us to show the world, show America, that these black cops or whatever, they were human
Mm-hmm.
with the same loves, hates, fears, aspirations as everybody else. Because a lot of times the the image of,
Right.
especially in an urban setting, it's like, oh, it's all ghetto. No, 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 it's not. It's balanced, just like in your neighborhood. There are our challenges, but it's balanced. So it's very important that we have him say he loves his son
Mm.
every time. So to Honey,
Yes.
again, it was my daughter. We're in a movie theater and we're watching Save the Last Dance. And I'm looking at her because all week during the trailers and before it opened, she was like, "Oh my God, I gotta see that, Dad. I gotta see it." Okay, we're gonna go. So we go, we sit there, and I'm watching her. Because I know when my daughter likes something, she really starts sitting up,
Mm-hmm.
waiting, like she's looking like this, and she just kept waiting. And I said,
Mm-hmm.
at the end of it, I was like, "How was it? How'd you like it?" She's like, "Oh, it was okay." "What
Hmm.
did you like?" She was like, "I don't know." And I knew right then, I knew what it was. It wasn't for her. It wasn't her and her girlfriends dancing
Oh, okay.
in the bedroom against the mirror. You know how
Yes.
they, doing
Yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
with Misty playing in videos. It wasn't that. It didn't speak to her, and I knew if it didn't speak to her, it didn't speak to a lot of girls, including white girls. It was a hit. So I went and I had this idea. I wanted to call it Ayanna's Groove, and I went to some of my friends and pitched it. And here's a lesson for all you writers out there. I pitched it to my friend Ted Witcher, who wrote Love Jones. I pitched it to Bobby Smith, who wrote Jason's Lyric. I even pitched it to Tiger Williams, who wrote Menace to Society. They all turned me down. All of them. And you know why? It's because they got their own ideas. Why do they need mine? So what did I have to do? I had to sit down and write it myself. And so I just started to understand. I got a book
Mhm.
to understand the structure of writing, got the app, and then started thinking the story through. What are the scenes?
Mm.
And so I got about a third of the way, and I showed it to a dear friend of mine who's a music director, Kim Watson. And he really liked it. And we got together and we wrote it.
Okay.
And it was the first script I ever wrote, and it got made.
Wow. I
Yeah,
did not know that. Okay.
yeah. And the sad caveat to that is that when we went to Universal, the studio executive was like, "We love the script. We're gonna go get Aaliyah." 'Cause at the time she was still alive.
Mhm.
3 weeks later, she perished in the plane crash.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
Yeah. And for me, it wasn't about the movie. I mean, the movie's gonna get made or not. It just hurt my heart so much. We had talked to her, excited, and so that was a lot. And,
yes. Wow. And that's an interesting nugget. I mean, no one knows that initially Aaliyah was supposed to be casted for that.
Yeah. And real quick with Judge Mathis.
Yes.
I was actually on a date. Actually, I was on a date, and it was a friend of mine was he managed Cameo, and we went to the House of Blues. It was my first date, so I figured, hey, I might as well take this woman, and I don't have to pay for dinner. So,
Alonzo.
cool. And I have to play big baller, man. Come on.
Yes, it worked.
It worked too. It did. So anyway, we get there, and there's a guy sitting across from me, and I had never met him before. And he was in town. He was a judge, my age, youngest judge ever to be elected in Michigan. And he had a book from the Gangs to the Gavel, and he was going to HBO or someplace to try to get it made as a documentary or a movie. And
what's the name of it, Alonzo?
From the Gangs to the Gavel.
Okay.
And we started talking, and we just had so much in common. His mother, my mother, where we came from, our age, our music, everything. And he was smart as hell. He was funny. And I was like, don't even worry. Don't even go to HBO. Don't even go to HBO. And so I called a few people, whatever, and then, who's going to shove it, whatever. And then Judge Mathis, but we had to test it first, though. Warner Brothers tested it. It tested really well. And that was it. But I knew Greg was going to be a hit. Again, it goes back to you already have the parameter. You already have a Judge Judy. So what's the urban version of that?
Okay.
Not ghetto, black version of that. Because most of the people that sit at home, it's between baby mama. It's a lot of people that are looking for jobs. God bless them. There's a lot of white people looking for jobs too, but it's all in the same economic class.
Right.
It's all in the same economic class. And he speaks to them, So I knew that it would be bigger than just a quote unquote black judge. And the thing I'm most proud about is that we do a lot of foundation work. And we have a foundation that expunges your record, your prison record, for free.
Nice.
Yeah, and we do prison tours and stuff like that where he goes and speaks to inmates. So I'm very proud of that.
And we're proud of you, and thank you for that, and for bringing that show and making it happen. It's a great show, and I have to mention, because I had read that in another 2 years, or is it 2 seasons? It's in its 23rd season, correct? And soon it will replace Soul Train. Right now, Soul Train is the longest running African American television show, but in a short amount of time, you're about to pass that with Judge Mathis show, which is really amazing.
Right, and we have a new show that's coming on, Mathis Family Matters.
Oh,
this Sunday on E!
Wonderful. Okay, you all heard that. We have to look out for that.
Yeah.
And yes, Judge Greg Mathis. Everybody knows about Judge Greg Mathis. Let me read a couple comments. Teresa Fifi is saying hello.
Hello.
Al and Shells. Oh, hey there. They're saying awesome, cool story. Genesis is saying, hey, Alonzo, and hello, Genesis.
Hello, Genesis.
And Laura's asking, are you producing Judge Mathis's new show?
No, I'm not producing that show, but we have another show after that we're working on.
So the show that's coming on Sunday is just a one-time show? It's not a series?
No, it's a series, a reality show.
It is a reality show. Okay.
She is, baby.
Okay.
Yes, she is. Black.
Awesome. Love it. We got to tune into that one.
Yeah.
So for a minute, I just want you to talk about Andre Harrell. So you mentioned he you know how he thinks, how he operates. You mentioned that earlier. So you are really close friends, and for you to know how he operates, can you just tell us about just the man Andre Harrell and the friend Andre Harrell?
Man, I mean, Andre, oh God, Andre, to me, I mean, look, we grew up since high school, and for me, I don't toss around genius a lot, but to me, in terms of understanding what to do, how to market, how the music, everything, the man was a genius. I mean, he really understood that the reason why it was called Uptown is because he understood that the whole Harlem game, from the music to jazz, whatever, to the drug, everything, it was all fly. It was all, 98 Cadillacs, deuce and quarters, whatever. And where's that music at? Where's the celebration of
Mm-hmm.
Black excellence in that? And so what he wanted to do was create an entire new music, which he did, New Jack Swing. He
Mm-hmm.
said it and created New Jack Swing. He had Guy and all that. And then beyond that, he understood how to market to people. Like Mary J. Blige was a singer. He's the one that put the bubble, the goose down bubble, got the blonde hair, put the shades on and everything. Jodeci, when everybody was doing, you had Silk, you had Boyz II Men, Jodeci had jeans on and the Timbos and everything. Like it was different, you know?
Yes.
So, and to me, he had one of the true, we had one of the true R&B sex symbols of all time, Albie Shore. When Albie Shore came, boy, he couldn't walk down the street for real, for real.
Yes.
And
People are still
so,
drooling over him. Yes.
mania, you know?
Yes.
I remember RG used to say, that's Elvis and I'm the Colonel.
Uh, well, Alonzo, let me read a couple more comments because we got just a couple more minutes left, and I want to make sure we talk about what is up and coming, what's new for you. But Alan Shell, Real Life with Alan Shell, asking, repeat the network for the series. It was E, wasn't it? So it was E. The E network is where Judge Mathis news television show is going to be on. And then Sharon is saying, with all of his titles, I'm adding storyteller to top of the list. Great interview. Thanks, Sharon.
Thank you.
Yes, you are a great storyteller. Okay. So Emmy Award winner. What was that like? How did you feel when you won an Emmy and Image Award? I want to leave that out, but you've won both of those awards. How does that feel, Alonzo?
Yeah, I've had this week coming up, next Friday, we've been nominated for our 5th, right?
Oh,
so the first year, I brought my daughter with me. I was like, I gotta take my daughter, and I wasn't really feeling it. I really wasn't. And then we didn't, and my daughter was so upset. She was more upset than me, And then the next year, what happened was a friend of mine gave me a gift. She bought me a bespoke, handmade, tailored tuxedo. She said, "You're gonna go and you're gonna win." I mean, like I had to go. Like you hold your arms out, you get fitted, and the whole bit.
Yes, the real deal. Yes.
I mean, decked out, right? And so when I got there, maybe it was a suit or something. I don't know what it was, but I told Greg, I said, "Yo, we're gonna win. We're gonna win. We're gonna." I told everybody, "We're gonna win." And when they called, the lady was like, "Judge," and she held it. Mathis. I was like, "Yo." I might have been the first one up on stage. I think I stood at the bottom, like helping people up, But more than anything, yes, it's nice to have that, and it's an affirmation of the hard work that you've done, and that your peers recognize it.
Mm-hmm.
But more than anything, I want it to be an example when people look at it and go, "Yo, this kid came from Harlem.
Oh,
look at where he's at." Look at what he's done. Look at all the things he's done. And so I think my work and my life, if there's anything, I just wanted to be an inspiration for everybody else, to inspire them to let them know they can do it too,
That's wonderful. Well, I'm sure there's more to come, Alonzo, and we are very happy that you did win. I'm sure you're going to win some more in the future.
Thank
And speaking of the future, tell us what is coming up for Alonzo. What are you into? What can we look for you?
Well, I'm developing this project along with you. I got to give a shout out to Miss Genesis, called the Genesis Project.
Oh,
And that's going to be an amazing, amazing project about a woman who's overcoming certain physical afflictions on her own. And it's almost like if I could do it, you could do it. And she's going to put people through tests mentally and physically as they try to overcome their own debilitating injuries mentally and physically. So keep an eye out for that. Uh,
yes, indeed.
yeah, I'm also big into audiobooks because I love audiobooks because it combines when you put them on and you listen to them, it takes you out into another world.
Hmm.
And most of the audiobooks are flat, just words. And I thought maybe we should put some music behind some of these. Maybe we should have different stories. Maybe we should have this. And so I teamed up with Cynthia Bailey,
Ah,
and I'm doing sort of like Sex in the City in Atlanta. It's called Cynthia Bailey's Atlanta Diaries. And it's about
okay.
her and two of her fictional girlfriends as they look for love, life, and happiness in the city of Atlanta. So it's going to be an episodic thing where like each episode's going to be like 30 minutes, 12 minutes total, and that'll be coming out, I think, by the end of the year. Yeah.
Okay. So these are audio episodes, correct?
Hmm.
Well, that's different. Okay.
Yeah, they're audio episodes, right? It's
Very
like one
interesting.
audio book. We've cut it up into different
Right.
episodes, so it's
Right.
episodic. It's just like Sex in the City. If you close your eyes and think of black people, that's what it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Well, that is wonderful. And so, can you tell everybody where they can find you or follow you or your website or social
Yeah.
media?
I guess what is it? I'm on Instagram. I'm not. I need somebody to help me run my social media. And Tanya knows this, so she's kind of put me on the spot here. But
Oh,
I think it's Alonzo Brown 110 at Instagram, and then just look up Alonzo Brown on Facebook. I'm not on it a lot, and the only reason why is because I try to stay focused on my work, and when I have something to say, I'll say it there. You know.
mm-hmm. But we're going to change that because we want to be sure people can find you. So we got to,
Um,
especially by the time diaries come out, we got to make sure.
Everybody follow right by the time Diaries come out.
Yes. So
Everybody follow me. Go on Alonzo Brown 110. I think that's it.
It's okay. We'll let them know. I will let them know. And when the diaries comes out or when it's about to, we'll have to have you come back so you could tell us a little more about that and we can help you get the word out so we can support you in all of your endeavors.
That's my heart project right now. That's the one I'm really into right now. That and the Genesis project.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, Alonzo, it has been a pleasure speaking with you today. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me, Tanya. And it's been really cool. I'm not. It's about giving. You know what I mean? And anytime I get a chance, or somebody gives me a platform too, I'm more than happy to do it.
Yes, so we definitely will have you come back. You gave us some great nuggets, some great stories, just a great conversation.
Good.
So everybody, look out for Alonzo Brown. He's going to have some things out there again. Make sure you keep tuning into Greg Mathis because he is still working with Judge Mathis. So make sure you continue to watch Judge Greg Mathis. So thank you, Alonzo, everybody. We'll see you next week. We are celebrating Black Music Month, and next week we'll have the founder or co-founder of Black Music Month with us. So make sure you join us next week, and that is Deanna Williams. So make sure you follow me on all my social media outlets and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Like me on Facebook at the KAMDI Group, and we will see you next week. Thank you, Alonzo. Everybody have a great evening. Bye-bye.
God bless. Thank you, Tanya.
Thank you.
All right.